The night Amara was born, the rain refused to fall. In the village of Umuaka, people said that when a child came into the world, the heavens must speak through thunder, rain, or wind. But that night, the sky was silent. No breeze. No clouds. Not even a whisper. "It is not a good sign," the old woman murmured. Her mother died before sunrise. And by evening, the village had already decided what Amara would become. Nothing. Amara grew up in a hut that leaned like it was tired of standing. Its roof was patched with old sacks, and when it rained, she would crawl into a corner, hugging her knees, whispering prayers to a God she had never seen. Her father, once a strong farmer, had become a shadow of himself after losing his wife. He drank palm wine from sunrise to sunset and spoke only when anger found him. "You brought bad luck," he would say, his voice thick and broken. "Since you came, everything died." And in many ways, it felt true. Their farmland dried up. Crops failed. Neighbors stopped visiting. Hunger became a permanent guest in their home. At 10 years old, Amara already knew what it meant to go to bed with nothing but water in her stomach. At 12, she stopped going to the village school. Not because she wasn't smart, but because she had no sandals, no books, and no voice to ask for help. The other children laughed at her. "Look at the girl nobody wants. She smells like poverty. She will end up like her father." Each word was a stone. And every day, she carried more of them in her heart. But something strange lived inside Amara. A quiet fire. At night, when her father slept in a drunken haze, she would step outside and sit under the moonlight. She would trace letters in the sand with her fingers, letters she remembered from the little time she had in school. A, B, C. Sometimes she got them wrong. Sometimes she cried. But she never stopped. "I will not be nothing," she whispered to herself. "I will not disappear." One evening, everything changed. A big car entered Umuaka, something the village had never seen before. Children ran behind it, shouting and laughing. Women peered from their doorways. A woman stepped out. She was tall, elegant, dressed in clothes that shimmered like sunlight on water. Her name was Ngozi, and she had returned from the city. They said she was once a girl from Umuaka, just like Amara. But now, she owned businesses, traveled the world, and spoke with power. The entire village gathered to welcome her. Amara stood far behind the crowd, her torn dress clinging to her thin body. She didn't belong there, but she couldn't leave. Ngozi began to speak. "I was once like many of you," she said, her voice calm but strong. "I had nothing. No money. No connections. Only a dream and the refusal to stay small." The crowd murmured. Amara felt something stir inside her chest. "Your beginning does not decide your ending," Ngozi continued. "But your choices do." Those words struck Amara like lightning. For the first time in her life, she saw a possibility. That night, she made a decision. She would change her life. No matter the cost. The next morning, before the sun rose, Amara walked to the village square. She carried a small basket and a trembling hope. She began picking fallen fruits, mangoes, oranges, anything she could find. By midday, she sat by the roadside, calling out in a voice that barely existed. "Buy fruit, fresh fruit." People ignored her. Some laughed. "Who will buy from this dirty girl?" But she stayed. Hour after hour. Until one woman stopped. "How much?" Amara swallowed. Anything you can give." The woman dropped a few coins into her hand and took 2 oranges. It was the first money Amara had ever earned. She stared at the coins like they were magic. That night, she did not go home immediately. Instead, she went to the small shop near the village school and bought a used, torn book. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Amara worked every single day, under the burning sun, under the rain, even when her body ached and her stomach cried. She sold fruits. She washed clothes for villagers. She carried loads in the market. And every night, she studied. Slowly, painfully, she taught herself how to read again. People still mocked her. Look at her. Acting like she would become something. But now, their words did not break her. They fueled her. One day, something unexpected happened. Ngozi returned to the village. This time, Amara didn't stand at the back. She pushed through the crowd, her heart pounding like a drum. "More," she called out. Ngozi turned. Their eyes met. I want to be like you," Amara said, her voice shaking but determined. "Please, show me how." The crowd laughed. But Ngozi did not. She studied the girl, the hunger in her eyes, the fire in her spirit. "What have you done so far?" Ngozi asked. Amara opened her bag and showed her the worn-out book, the few coins she had saved, and her rough, handwritten notes. Ngozi's expression changed. That day, she saw something the village had never seen. Potential. "I will help you," Ngozi said. And with those words, Amara's life shifted. The journey was not easy. Ngozi arranged for Amara to return to school, but she had to work twice as hard to catch up. She faced humiliation from classmates younger than her. She failed tests. She cried many nights. There were days she wanted to quit. But she remembered the hurt, the hunger, the words, "You are nothing." And she refused to go back. Years passed. Amara grew, not just in age, but in strength, knowledge, and confidence. She became one of the best students in her class. Then in her school. Then in her district. The same people who once laughed at her began to whisper her name with respect. Is that not the girl from that broken heart? How did she do it? At 18, she earned a scholarship to a university in the city. Leaving Umuoka was both terrifying and exciting. For the first time, she saw a world beyond survival. But the city was not kind. She struggled again, this time with language, technology, and the fast pace of life. Many nights, she sat alone in her small room, feeling like that same nobody again. But she had changed. She knew something now. Growth hurts. But staying the same hurts more. She pushed forward. Studied harder. Worked part-time jobs. Built connections. Learned skills. And slowly, she began to rise. 10 years after that silent night she was born. Amara returned to Umuoka. But this time, the village was not silent. Cars followed her. People gathered. Children ran. The same square where she once sold fruits now stood decorated in her honor. The girl nobody saw had become the woman nobody could ignore. Her father stood at the edge of the crowd. Older. Weaker. Regret heavy in his eyes. Amara walked up to him. For a moment, the world held its breath. "I am sorry," he whispered. Tears filled her eyes. For everything he had done. For everything she had endured. She chose something greater than pain. "I forgive you," she said. That evening, Amara stood before the village. The same place where she once felt invisible. Now, every eye was on her. "I was called nothing," she began, her voice steady but emotional. "I was told I would never matter." She paused, looking at the faces before her. "But I stand here today as proof that where you start does not define where you end." The crowd was silent. Some were crying. "I was hungry. I was broken. I was alone," she continued. "But I made a choice to fight for a different life." She smiled softly. "And if I can do it, then so can you." That night, the rain finally came. Heavy. Loud. Alive. As if the heavens had waited 10 years, just to celebrate her. And in that moment, the village understood something they had never known before. The girl they once called nobody had become somebody the world would never forget.